Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Sunday afternoon, it becomes official. Mike Shula out as South Carolina's offensive coordinator, and quite frankly, rightfully so. Inexcusable what this South Carolina offense has looked like throughout 2025, especially when you couple it with the fact that you had a quarterback that at this time last year we thought had a chance to be the best quarterback in the country in the 2025 year. Dill, I'll just put my hand up right off the bat and say I've already gotten a few emails from the South Carolina fans. I've been prepared for this episode the last couple of weeks. I have what I think are some money offensive coordinator hires that South Carolina could go out and get. And I want to start with this right off the bat. This is the most important decision that Shane Beamer has made as a head coach at South Carolina. If you do not get this hire right, next year at this time, we're going to be talking about South Carolina looking for a new head coach. If the offense does not get fixed during this offseason, going into the 2026 year, and Dill, I don't mean the sunshine pump, but I am going to say this. If they can get it right, this team should be good next year. Because what I've seen from the young cats on this South Carolina defense, extremely encouraging in terms of what this unit's going to be in 2026. You should have a defense that allows you to win a lot of football games in the SEC. Are you going to have a capable and competent offense? That's the question. Got to get this hire right. And Dill, why is it so important for Shane Beamer? Look, we knew this about Shane Beamer when we brought him into South Carolina. He is not an X's and O's mastermind. He's not a guy like Ryan Day, who Ryan Day is not calling the plays, but if things go wrong on offense, Ryan Day can get in his bag and figure some things out. That's not who Shane Beamer is. That's not that's not why South Carolina hired him as their head football coach. Because you're not that kind of coach, you got to get your coordinator hires right. And that's been a problem for Shane Beamer on offense throughout his tenure at South Carolina. Needs to get this one right in the offseason. And I'll say this, the offensive coordinator that they go out and get, you maybe look for an offensive coordinator that can bring a young quarterback that you like, or an offensive line coach that you like. And a couple of my offensive coordinator candidates will satisfy that criteria. Fired up to get into this one. Again, I've been prepared for this one for a very long time. To the South Carolina fans, number one, appreciate you guys. The amount of support this fan base shows the boys is amazing. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Candidates, let it fly in the comment section. We'll be talking a lot about it over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to give you the tee box. The floor is yours.
My only issue probably is this should have happened when the offensive line coach went. I think that now this kind of looks a little bit like, to me, Shane Beamer scrambling, if that makes sense.
I think he is. I think that is currently what's going on.
But that's just not how you want to have your look as your head coach.
I agree.
I think it does concern upcoming coordinators to look like, well, are you just like going to have somebody else fall on the sword a little bit for you? Not saying that's happening, because frankly, both those respective coaches needed to go.
Yeah.
I wish they probably went together. I think optically it just makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they can't trot this offense out there again. It is so bad. There is enough talent. Like the wide receivers, honestly, are playing kind of good. There's just something really broken about it.
And Lenore's has taken a monster step back too, right? And look, is it all Lenore's fault? No, this offensive line has been a disaster from the jump. But you haven't seen Lenore's take that step. In fact, he kind of looks like a shell of himself compared to the Lenore's that we saw at this time last year. And that does fall at the feet of Mike Shula, right? I do agree with you to an extent, but at the same time, this is deserved, right? Mike Shula gets paid a lot of money to put points up on the scoreboard, right? And he had a quarterback that you can go do that with. And you look at the offensive numbers and say it's hard to make an argument that there's a worse Power 4 offense in the country right now than South Carolina.
But this also gets your hackles up a little bit for Beamer too, because as much as
hackles are up for Beamer.
I know Beamer's not this X's and O's wizard, but at the end of the day, he is responsible for being able to right the ship when it really gets off kiltered, and they have found no answers on offense. So to me, again, certainly needed to move on from probably there's going to be more changes, I'd imagine, with this offensive staff in general.
I think so too.
Maybe just kind of a whole new crew, frankly, coming in.
Yep.
but it does certainly make you. That's why I think you said it. Like, yeah, if he gets the next one wrong, then it doesn't matter because then it frankly doesn't. Like, you can't fire
Oh,
another
if
offense.
yeah, if no, if Shane Beamer gets this next hire wrong, you're not firing the offensive coordinator. You're firing Shane Beamer. No, I'm not joking about that. That is very,
100%.
very real. All right. My number one candidate, and I think this would be a smash home run hire. Florida State's Gus Malzahn. Now, what are the benefits? Number one, I don't hate bringing in a guy that has a head coaching experience in this conference and, quite frankly, some success head coaching in the SEC. Number two, you can bring his offensive line coach, Herb Hand, who I thought, this Florida State offense was very similar to what South Carolina's offense is this year. I mean, it was miserable. The offensive line stunk. The quarterback play stunk. Gus Malzahn comes in. They completely retool the offensive line in the portal. Florida State's offense this year, and I know Mike Norvell is going to get fired. That's why Gus Malzahn's here and we're talking about him. The offense ain't the problem. 35 points per game, that's top 20 in the country. And you look at 5.1 yards per carry, 21st in the country. 9.4 yards per pass attempt, that is top 10 in the country. What Gus Malzahn did, and this is what Shane Beamer needs too. Shane Beamer needs immediate. I don't got time to build. I got to figure this offense out in 2026. Gus Malzahn has shown you that he can do it at Florida State. I think he can come to South Carolina and make it happen too. To me, you bring over Herb Hand as offensive line coach. I'm back on South Carolina in 2026.
No, I will say I wouldn't even mind Gus Malzahn. I think if you're going to go that route, I think I'd much rather have Andy Koldenicki from Penn State. And I think again another guy who is working with a very good offensive line coach. Is it Phil Troutwig?
Yeah, but so here's my and I was thinking about this too. Phil Troutman's been at Penn State, so I don't know if Phil Troutman's Coach K's offensive line coach, so to say, but Phil Troutman's available. And you talk about offensive line coach hires you should be making. There's no better offensive line coach than what Penn State's trying out there. Sorry.
That's what I'm thinking. Again, I just think you get a little bit younger. You get guys who are maybe more a little bit with it. Because I think you're at this point with, frankly, both Herb Hand and Gus Malzahn, like, are they still really trying to climb the ladder and be those type of guys? Like, I'm not wildly encouraged by the recruiting efforts at Florida State. I know you wouldn't necessarily be bringing them in to be recruiters, but there's
that's
still
why
some
you have Shane Beamer, in my opinion.
Right,
that's where I would disagree is that's why you have Shane Beamer. Like, I ain't asking Gus Malzahn come in and build culture. Like, shit, that's why Shane Beamer's at South Carolina, and he's done a good job building culture. We need a guy that's a wizard scheming up offense. I think Gus Malzahn's that guy. And the way Herb Hand one of the bigger reasons I'm a Gus Malzahn guy is what his offensive line coach has done at Florida State too. It was miserable. It was just as bad as South Carolina's offensive line is this year. That's what Florida State looked like last year. They don't look like that anymore. That's why I love Gus Malzahn. I don't hate Coach K either. And again, he's a free agent, right? They're going to be a free agent. I'll give you another free agent, another former head coach in this conference, Bobby Petrino. Thoughts?
He can draw it up. Bobby Petrino, like pure X's and O's. I don't know that we got a better, and frankly, a better coordinator who I think can pretty much work with any quarterback. He can work with runners. He can work with pocket guys. He can work with a running game or an offense, I should say, that leans on the running game.
Yep.
Bobby Petrino, there is no offense that he hasn't made work somehow. He might be target. Like just pure straight up offensive mind, he's probably target number one for me.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go out and target Bobby Petrino, does that maybe help you? Because I don't know what the future is of Lenore Sellers. If I'm Lenore Sellers, I'm looking at Bobby Petrino being the next hire, saying like that's an offense where it fits like a glove in terms of what Lenore Sellers does. And again, if Lenore Sellers decides to go to the NFL or he decides to hit the transfer portal, the conversation is, all right, we need a new offensive coordinator, but I also think you need a new quarterback too. Right? I think there's a reason that Luke Doty right now is your quarterback 2 on this depth chart. I'll give you one here that will bring a quarterback. And I might get some heat for this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. And I want to be very clear. This might not be my number one endorsement. The South Carolina fans recognize this name, Kurt Roper at NC State. The NC State offense is cooking, man. And they got a young quarterback in CJ Bailey who I think has the chance to be an absolute dude over the next couple of years. Can you do something similar to what Brent Venables did at Oklahoma, where it's like not only do you bring a really good offensive coordinator with you, but you're bringing a really good quarterback with you too. That is how you flip it, right? And I look at Kurt Roper. If he can bring C.J. Bailey over, that would be intriguing if I'm a South Carolina fan.
C.J. Bailey's one of the more underrated quarterbacks I think in the game. I think he is on a team that Dave Doran's kind of lost it. It feels like a little bit like just lost control of the roster. They don't really have a ton of talent. They do have Bailey. You don't hear a peep from him. I feel like he plays most games. He takes hits. I love what he's done at NC State.
And here's another one that's a young, and this is a more younger offensive coordinator with a young quarterback, is Jonathan Brewer at Duke with Darian Mensah. Darian Mensah, man, he can absolutely let it rip as well. Now, here's another really obvious hire that I think you look at. Buster Faulkner, right? Kind of going back to like the Bobby Petrino conversation in terms of a offensive mind that can build an offense around the skill set. Buster Faulkner, to me, might be one of the best.
The problem is, I don't even know how available he is exactly.
Me neither.
He has a great situation at Georgia Tech. They pay him really, really well. I think last year, every big school in the country, I'm guessing, was kind of circling the waters a little bit for him. Yep. And you saw Georgia Tech step up and kind of make it work for him. I think those other guys you mentioned, they feel pretty available. Buster Faulkner, he's probably the guy. Like, I don't know if there's a better offensive or a guy who feels like he's calling plays at the level Buster Faulkner's calling plays right now. I'm just not sure he's on the open market easily. And if he gets another job, then that obviously makes it even harder.
I'll give you one more. I'll give you Nick Sheridan. This is actually yours, so I'm kind of stealing yours. Nick Sheridan at Alabama. T-Box is yours.
I think he was put to the sword a little bit, similar to maybe how things are going at South Carolina.
No, I don't get it. You have to stop that take. That is the you've had bad takes. There is not a worse take than you saying Shane Beamer's using Mike Shula as a scapegoat. Actually, what I would argue is Shane Beamer was so reluctant to use him that's why I don't think Mike Shula is getting fired now as opposed to 4 weeks ago. I don't think Shane Beamer wanted to appear as a coach that's using his OC as a scapegoat, but at a certain point, like you're going to lose the fan base if you continue to trot out that offense coordinator.
No, that's fair, but I look at Nick Sheridan's circumstance last year. I think he came into a really bad fit. Like Jalen Milroe wasn't going to be able to run what he wants to run.
Totally agree.
And that maybe concerns you a little bit because you'd like to see your offensive coordinator be able to work with other quarterbacks, not just like a Michael Penix type guy. Because that's obviously like that type of thrower of the ball is more in line with Nick Sheridan in that Kalen DeBoer system.
Yeah.
But Nick Sheridan, I do think, is a good offensive mind. I think, like, again, you put the right pieces around him in terms of the quarterback, wide receiver. I think he's a guy who could be quite a productive coach.
Yeah, bring over Keelan Russell while we're at it, eh? I don't know if you could do that.
I think but you are probably looking at Austin Mack a little bit, frankly. Maybe. If you're going to look at
I don't know if Austin Mack can play, though, man.
Well, yeah, who knows? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say getting beat out by Ty Simpson is like some grand indictment because Ty Simpson can rip it.
I would say Nick Sheridan would know. So if you decide to go with Nick Sheridan, he would either say, I think Austin Mack can play because I've seen him practice for the last couple of years or not. But you let him make that decision. Equally as important as the offensive line, because you talk about what's really held this program back. The offensive line in terms of consistency has never been there, Shane Beamer. And it's getting to the point where I look at the talent. Like, it's not like we don't have bodies we trust. It's just like it doesn't come together. We're clueless. The combo blocks are a disaster. We don't pick up stunts. We don't pick up blitz package. It's more the coaching and consistency side of things than you got players that can't play. And so you got to get the offensive line coach hire right too. Because that's been you don't have an offensive line in the SEC. It don't matter who's calling the plays. It ain't going to work. All right. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and this is the right move by Shane Beamer. It's going to be a monsterly important decision that Shane Beamer has to make over the next couple of weeks, and I will say this still, it is a solid time to have to make this kind of hire because coaches are going to be all over the place, and I think there's going to be a lot of quality coaches that are on the market. We'll see how it plays out. Appreciate the South Carolina fans. Again, the support through the highs and lows has been awesome. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.